Wednesday, you ready?
Oh, yeah. I think you just have to let them know so they know to start recording. All right. Did you push the side button?
No, I pushed the call button.
Oh. We're ready to go if you guys are ready to start recording.
Sounds good, it's rolling.
And you're ready, right?
Yeah.
Great. I'll call the Town of Barnstable Shellfish Committee meeting of May 8, 2024 to order. I must read. Please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel, and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. Anybody taping this meeting? First item is to approve the minutes of April 10, which is an error. It's a March. There are March minutes, so I'm going to put that on the next agenda because it's not properly on this agenda. I don't have any comments at this time. Natural Resources Report.
So we'll start off with the propagation report. Of course you can't. Why would you be able to open that? Okay. Okay. Right. Then I will just read the email. You know, sometimes I think back to like the Tom Marcotti days when he would just print 8 million things, and although I don't prefer to do that, technology doesn't always work for me. Okay, so per Ryan Henry, who is our shellfish technician, our first seasonal shellfish assistant, Amanda, has started with us. The next one is coming the end of May. We had our first intern from MITC grant start this past week named Aiden. He was with us for a week. We showed him how your municipality grows shellfish, and his placement is with a private grower in Barnstable Harbor next. We get another intern next week, so we have this week off. And after both interns finish their other assignments, one of them will be with us for the remainder of the year, which will be our third seasonal through this program. They're doing like an aquaculture internship and then providing housing and essentially hooking these kids up with towns to work with for the summer season. We started the process of planting a remote set at Barnstable Harbor, which will take several tides. We've been preparing the remote set bags for this upcoming year's set. A total of 700 bags will be made. 21 nets were pulled of cohogs, so we can start stocking the shellfishing grounds and surrounding areas. They moved approximately 121 bushels of cohogs throughout 3 bays. We're a mix of seed and legal. So to that point, all of the relay areas that are in open status have been stocked for May. We have shellfish growing area maps. We've had a lot of changes since the beginning of May. I think I'll probably just skip over the May 1st closures because a lot of them will all be included in the May 15 closures. So May 15th, next week from today, we had North Bay, Marston's Mills River, Prince Cove, all closed on May 1st. We had the Sepuit River, that portion, that area closed May 1st, and then we'll have the Bridge Street mooring area, the Cotuit Oyster Company mooring area, and the Cotuit Town Landing mooring area will all close May 15th. In the past 2 years, Division Marine Fisheries was letting me count the number of boats in these mooring areas before instituting a closure. They have now walked that back and said that the dates that are defined are the dates. So legitimately, even though I have 0 boats in the Hyannis Yacht Club mooring area, well, maybe 5 at this point, it's, you know, it's closed effective May 15th. And as of May 1st, the Hyannis Port Yacht Club mooring area was closed, and I currently have 0 boats in there. So that's a little annoying. I'm working with them. Yeah, this area, like 0 boats right now. And this area will close effective June 1st, in line with Lewis Bay. So what I'll be doing for next season is I've been counting the number of boats, and I think it's reasonable to have them reclassify the areas conditionally approved to close effective June 1st, with the option to locally, with the assistance of our GIS, just close the areas if they have to close sooner because of the number of boats. Does anyone have any questions about growing area closures that are upcoming or have already happened since the beginning of May. All righty. We have our April shellfish permit numbers. We're down slightly from 2023, although the money, because some of them were prorated last year, is about the same. So yeah, we're like about 200 permits shy of where we were last April. And then for May, again, we're right about 200 shy from last year. I think it's probably because we shut down Scudder early to oysters, so people didn't renew ahead of like next season. But I think once we get into closer to the summer months and we've started restocking all of the relay areas, people will come back around. But again, you know, because of the change in the prorating, the money is essentially the same. Let's see, what else do I have? I think that's all on my end, with the exception of explaining mooring area closures. So there's a request from Tim Hamill, he's Wild Harvester, last month when we didn't have a quorum, to kind of walk through mooring area closures. So there is the Interstate Shellfish Sanitation Conference, and that conference meets a couple times a year, and municipalities, organizations, state, federal agencies all come together and bring proposals to various committees. And those proposals go sometimes to a subcommittee, sometimes they get voted on that same year. Some of them have been going on for well over a decade. And back in like 2015, I want to say, FDA wanted to change the National Shellfish Sanitation Program's model ordinance pertaining to growing areas that are in close proximity to mooring fields. And although a number of states fought, valiantly and got them to finally agree to 20 boats rather than 10 constituting a closure, which is what they initially wanted. Wow. The FDA views every boat as a pollution source, even if it's a sunfish that's in a mooring area. And so they essentially state that lacking any sort of approved protocol in place to show, we have pump out logs, we're a federal no discharge zone, do water quality testing in those areas 5 times a year, and that's not enough to prove that people aren't defecating and urinating off the sides of their boats 24 hours a day. And so this did make it into the 2019 model ordinance, although it was not being enforced until 2021. And so as of 2021, you started seeing us closing mooring areas. We were at least allowed to define those mooring areas with the assistance of Division of Marine Fisheries rather than going by designated mooring areas by the harbor master. So that helped us kind of mitigate the blow a little bit. But moving forward, they're looking at adopting into the model ordinance, removing potential pollution sources for boats that don't have marine sanitation devices on board. And so that could mean moving forward that the West Bay mooring area closure and the Katuitt Oyster Company mooring area closure could probably be lifted, because at that point we wouldn't have more than 20 boats in those areas that are capable of, doing that discharge. Katuitt Town Landing has way too many boats that are capable of overnight occupancy, as do the Hyannis and Hyannisport mooring areas. So those closures will stay in effect, but moving forward, we may be able to keep a couple of those areas still classified as conditionally approved, but open during the boating season. And I do believe that is it for me.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm going to move on to new business. There is none. Number 5, upcoming and renewal transfer hearings are none. We have upcoming proposed coastal projects, number 6 on our agenda. Applicant is Murray Scudder. Anybody here on his behalf? Hearing none. This is a proposed project to permit maintenance dredging authorized under emergency certification form issued by the Barnstable Conservation, and to permit future maintenance dredging as needed. does Natural Resources have an issue with this? Is it Inner Harbor permanently closed?
It is, it's Inner Harbor, yeah, it's High Line, basically. And so this is something that comes up every, like, handful of years. And although it's been continued to June 4th, I'm not sure why. Probably because there's some sort of paperwork missing. Natural Resources wouldn't have any opposition to it because obviously they need to be able to get the ferries in and out of the harbor.
So if everybody's okay with us not dealing with that, I'll move on to number 2. Applicant is Peter and Marie Small, 339 Eel River Road. John O'Day's office is representing them. Anybody from his office here? And this is a request to install float piles at 339 Eel River Road. And what do we know about that?
That went before the commission at 3 p.m. yesterday and was approved. It's a very small footprint because they're just installing float piles to an existing pier. But there are cohogs there, so we're just asking for that special condition be added to the orders of condition that allow us to go in and remove them and charge the applicant for the time it takes us to move the stock.
Great. Any committee members or public want to talk about that? And if not, I'll move on. Great, I'll move on. Applicant, or number 3 on our agenda under upcoming and proposed coastal projects is George and Larry Atair. I don't think and Lisa and Jeffrey Biling. This is on 306 Long Beach Road, proposed dock reconstruction.
So we did go out and do a shellfish survey there. It's very far up in the Centerville River and is essentially a muck pit. It's not really suitable shellfish habitat, and it's in a prohibited area. So we didn't have any opposition. That also went before the commission yesterday, but is continued to June 4th, I think, because Waterways is going to take issue with it.
Okay. So anybody from the committee? Yes.
Oh, I mean, I'm the representative for that project. I'm the engineer and permitter.
And I don't think that anybody in the committee cares to discuss it, but I appreciate that you're here.
Okay?
I'll move on to number 4. Applicant is Nikki La Riviere Trust. You here on that as well?
Yes.
Okay. And that, the address is 188 Bayshore Road in Hyannis. The proposed project, according to the agenda, is shorefront protection. Please introduce yourself and tell us what it is, and then I'll see if there's anybody in the room that wants to talk about it. But go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, private consultant. I'm an ocean engineer by degree, and I designed and are going through the permitting process for this project. Basically, if you've been out there, there's an existing just bunch of stones piled on the shoreline. And the goal of the project is to remove those and install a properly designed, properly installed rock revetment. It'll be in the same footprint as what you see there. There's no expansion seaward, actually no expansion landward either. So they're just taking out an unorganized pile of rocks and putting in a properly designed revetment.
Doesn't affect the ocean at all. You're not operating from the water. It's all being done from upland.
Yeah, it should be done from the upland. An excavator can reach it all. On the left side of the property, the vegetative buffer is a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, so they might go into that, depending on the machine that they use, but that would all get restored. It's mostly, I think, Rosa rugosa or Virginia rose. I can't tell the difference between the two.
Okay.
But it would be restored. But no, I don't. No intention to do any work from the beach. You will have to excavate to take the stones out and put the toe stones in, but it'll look the same, except a lot neater when they're done.
Correct. Anybody from the committee want to address this?
No.
Anybody from the public? Yes.
Are you talking about the actual wall, or are you talking about all the little riprap that's on the sand flat that's in there?
Well, all of it, really. The beach goes right up to the base of the rocks.
Yeah.
And then the rocks, I mean, they're small. Some of them are only this big or this big. They're too small to really do anything. And it's like old pilings in front. I mean, that's just...
So you just clean up the rocks, or you're going to actually build like a rock seawall? I mean, I guess I'm kind of confused.
It's a rock revetment, so it's very similar to what's there, except it will be an organized pile of stones. The stones are stacked in a manner, if this is the land, they're not just stacked like this, they're stacked up,
Yeah.
so gravity
Yeah.
holds them in place. So it's
Okay.
just a properly designed revetment, but it'll be in the same footprint. The exposed stone will look exactly in the same footprint that it is now.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. I think we're going to move on. Number 5, the Fourth Amendment and restatement of the FTP Revocable Trust of 2004. Tom Parsi is the trustee. The location is 98 Hayes Road. Mark, you're on this as well?
I am.
Please.
Thank you. Mark Burgess again. So this is a proposed seasonal dock in, it's Quacket Lake, but it's an embayment that's, I guess only looks like it has 2 little channels to get into this other area on the south, the far south side of the lake. It goes out 50 feet to obtain, I think, 3 feet of water at the end. Seasonal dock, like I said, aluminum dock, comes out every year, and that's it.
And there's no shellfish that is in that area that we're aware of, right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is he going to be required to do a shellfish survey of any kind?
No, I feel like that would have been triggered when the NOI went in through natural heritage if it was mapped for endangered species of freshwater mussel. 'Cause this is in Lake Quacket, so.
Great. Anybody from the committee care to discuss this further? Anybody from the public? Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
The number 6 is the Town of Mashpee, care of Rodney Collins. Is Rodney the town manager? Are you here for Town of Mashpee?
Yes.
So let me just finish reading this. It's a proposed maintenance dredging in Papaneset Bay, and the applicant is the Town of Mashpee. Please introduce yourself and...
Good evening, members. For the record, my name is Kieran Healy. I'm a land surveyor with the BSC Group, representing the town of Mashpee. What we've got proposed is a 10-year dredging plan for the town of Mashpee, but some of the channels actually come into the town of Barnstable to get access to the town of Mashpee's area. So as a result, we need permitting with both towns to approve this. We are not proposing any dredging. Historically, it seems that the Barnstable channels don't fill in this area. They seem to dredge the Mashpee channels more because of the tides, the way they work out there. The last time it was dredged, there was no need to dredge any of the land in the Barnstable area. I think it's about 10 years since they actually had to dredge the land in Barnstable. There are surveys done on a regular basis to see if anything is filled in, and as of yet it hasn't. And the last time we were out there in February, we did soundings throughout the whole area, and the channels in Barnstable were not needed to be dredged for this coming year. And so this is basically just an allowance for us to keep a 10-year permit going in the event there's need for dredging at some particular time without starting from scratch if there's an emergency.
Gotcha. Anybody from the committee have any questions for this gentleman? Anybody from the public? Guess not. Survey done here? Didn't trigger a survey either.
No, because I'm not proposing, so,
Oh, because you're not proposing to do any dredging on Barnstable side.
right.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Special presentation. Jake, you're up.
So did that other one work, or maybe you do anything?
This is one on your thumb drive.
Okay, perfect. All
I'm
right.
going to pass you,
Before the presentation, the maintenance of the Blish ramp, right now, it's like sand filled in there. What is the deal with that? Like, who is supposed to maintain all the sand that keeps washing in there?
so it's a state-owned boat ramp, but the town manages it in season, the harbor master manages it in season. DPW is who does, like, typically the permitting for that. So I have no idea what the plans are for that. I would reach out to probably Brian
That
Taylor.
Brian, like
It's
when they
pretty
bring
bad
that
right
skid,
now.
when they bring the
Where?
skid steer down there.
Bottom
Is that
Blish?
Brian
Blish,
ordering
Yeah, I
it?
know.
during
Is
low
that-
tide, you can't.
I'm pretty sure it's
literally trails like
DPW
this.
ordering it, probably through Brian,
Okay.
but it could
Tyler,
be
you
through
have a
Amber
comment.
Unruh as well.
Yes, I have a question. What is in season? Because
We're always in
there's
season.
boats and trucks.
Well, when I say in season that harbor master is managing it, I mean when they're charging people to park there. Yeah.
They cleaned it out, I want to say, like 2 months ago, but with the dock in place, I mean, I can't even launch either of my boats there unless it's like I'm really early.
Okay.
So,
It was a tough morning.
I'll bring it up tomorrow morning
really
to
bad.
Brian. I'll bring it up tomorrow morning to
Your
Brian.
trail's literally like
Yeah,
sideways like that, so.
And on the other ramp too,
and Millway.
use it at dead low.
good to
Your
know.
axles like go over the last cobbles and your frames. sit.
So I talked to Brian. I should remind him. I told him about that drop off and was telling him to put some like T-base in there or something, some hard pack, just at least to take the drop away. So that's worth reminding him about too, if you talk to him.
Okay, I will talk to him about both of those
Did he indicate that he would do
things.
something about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's definitely,
He was for it. I mean, it
Yeah.
was kind of like we had a 30-minute conversation and I brought it up to him because it didn't dawn on him, you know. But
because
like,
they don't have to launch boats there. They're already at the
I mean, it's only Tom there
Yeah.
barking at us. Don't launch at low tide, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, at
Right,
4 in
don't
the morning,
work.
I don't have another choice.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I mentioned it to him, so it's just kind of, I think, a reminder thing.
I will poke the bear tomorrow.
Okay, Paul, good?
All right, so, if anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt me, but I'm gonna make this kind of quick. How do I go like this?
That's nasty.
Yeah, so basically,
Or you can use the arrows on the keyboard.
okay, so basically, we, you know, hopefully to improve the bottom and the quality of the shellfish, did some dredging in the Mills River. That's a bunch of sponge that was blanketing the bottom. And then as a result, we've seen a lot of seed recruitment. And then we had bay scallop, a couple of not like anything you're gonna go harvest, but for the first few years, you didn't see any. And then towards the end, I'd see them every once in a while. Also, the same with the razor clams. There was 0 razor clams anywhere in the 3 bays that I knew of. And then now, if you do a tows in the Mills River, you'll catch razor clams. Not a lot, again, but more seed and more razor clams.
When was this picture taken?
This was taken probably this winter. I just put that red string on that gauge this winter, so.
Okay.
This is in the Centerville River. These are just, the next few slides are gonna be pictures of basically what it looks like coming out of the bag, as is, not cold or anything.
Wow.
So this right here is a new neck, maybe 3 years old, I'd say, where you can tell by the growth rings on them. There's maybe one very small one down by the hinge, then there's that one that almost is in the middle. And then you can tell that quahog grew almost basically the rest of the way from that growth ring in one season, which is a huge amount of growth. And we weren't seeing anything like that in the Mills River prior to dredging at all. You wouldn't, if you found anything of that size, it would be almost like a marble and round and have many, many, many growth rings on it.
Stunted.
You can see too more different clams in the Mills River, of different sizes, and they all have nice long growth rings on them. And when you see the white lips on them like that, that's the newest growth. So when you see a nice fat lip like that, that means they're growing, really another sign of them growing fast. This is a top neck that is roughly 4 years old. And this thing is going to be a chowder in like a year. If that clam would be a chowder in a year or two, I'd imagine at the rate it's growing. There's more growth rings, more seed.
There's a lot of notatas.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Is this? Oh, maybe this is the video, huh? Have you?
I think if you go to the next one, then it pulls up the video. Yeah, and then you have to play it.
This isn't this is a video, yes. Okay. It's loading, I guess.
While it's loading, to anyone who wasn't short raking or long raking in that area before this spring, in 2018-19, I was long raking, and you get 5 baskets, level baskets, and it would be like 350 pounds of chowders and maybe 15 little necks if you're lucky. So just to give you an idea of seeing like a pile of necks on the culling board like that is pretty incredible.
Yeah, do you want to do something, Amy, or try? If it doesn't work, I guess.
The ones you emailed me permission.
So this was, when I dump out the bag, I dump them in the milk crates, and then I dump the milk crates onto the table column, and this is just a milk crate. A lot of that shell that you see is ancient steamer shell from when there's a lot more steamering in the river. I'm picking out just little necks. That's a no top. If you want to do all 3 videos, just to get them out of the way. So this is I attached a camera underneath to the tow line of the dredge, and this is like a live feed right now. It's actually towing and with a wire going down to the camera, and you can see how it sits on the bottom. And the goal, what I found, is to go very slowly. You know, you don't want to go fast at all. You know, now I'm going maybe a little too fast. You'll see I'll slow it down. But as long as that dredge is just moving very nice and slow and consistently on the bottom, there's minimal breakage, and you maximize your fuel efficiency and your efficiability. And a lot of these are to show the pile, to demonstrate that there's very few to no broken clams, minimal breakage. Okay, I guess we can go back to the regular slideshow. Yeah, that one's good. That just, we'll start from there. So then that's a full tow, and you can see right on the top that they're all full whole clams. Just there's nothing but clams in there.
You're still in the Marshall Mills River?
We've been over the winter we did. Lots of parts in different parts in North Bay, and then the Sapute River was open, but it was very hard to tow through it properly. So by the time I kind of got in there, I didn't get enough time to get some modifications done to try to go back in there again. So hopefully maybe next year, that's part of the discussion, maybe try to go back in there. So then this is a picture of obviously a rock that I caught, but I put this in the slideshow because I wanted to show when you're fishing with whether it's a bull rake or a scallop dredge or a quahog dredge, they're all made out of regular steel that rusts, and when the implement's fishing properly, it wears in a certain pattern, and you can see the wear at the bottom of the shoes on either side of the knife, which is the cutting implement. And the wear on a dredge should be relatively even horizontally, and it shouldn't ride too far up the front of the shoes, which would indicate more digging. This is a surf clam dredge that I've been working on a surf clam boat, learning about that business because it's a similar thing. This is the dredge, which is almost the size of my boat that I cohog in the Mills River in. But you can see on the wear line that it's extremely even because they have the ability to use jet water, which makes the line evener because there's less resistance on the outside of the dredge due to the knife pushing down. When you have the water, it's smoother and it goes through, but nonetheless, the wear on the shoe is even. Now this is when you're towing incorrectly, particularly too much digging, you can see that it's a diagonal line, it's not horizontal at all, and it's actually coming over the top of the dredge a little bit, meaning that the nose is plowing. And that can be adjusted both with the length of the tow line as well as the point of tow. On the dredge itself, there's several holes along the spine, and the further back you put the holes, the further it drives the front of the knife, or the front of the dredge into the ground. And if you bring them forward, it will pick the front of it up, pushing the back of the dredge down. So you want to find that equilibrium where the dredge is riding flat on the bottom. This is a small boat in Wellfleet, similar to kind of what I've pictured Barnstable, this off of Barnstable, our idea here. It has a 60 horsepower engine. It has an extremely similar design to what I'm using for a dredge. These are boats in Rock Harbor. They have a dredge program there. They allowed 35 bushels a day, I believe, but they go outside outside the embayments for those 35 bushels. This is a boat that I bought that was from Rock Harbor that I've used for pot fishing, but just to show you what they use, that's the rigging and everything that the guys in Rock Harbor use. This is a dredge from Rock Harbor, two different kinds. Now these boats, where I'm going with this now is there's basically no rules in our town at the moment, and
No rules for what?
dredging, other than the 5 basket limit and where we can go. So there's concerns, including myself, about the size of the boats that can go in to the rivers. And one of the main ones is just the amount of room in the rivers for me personally. So if I decided, if there's a larger boat in there, and then another guy gets a larger boat in there, and then another guy gets a larger boat in there, then there's really no room for anybody to do anything in there, and it's kind of a safety concern. So what I'm going with this, I guess, and to make it quick, is this is the different dredge limits by town. Gosnold, which is Cuttyhunk and Elizabeth Islands, they're allowed 180 bushels a week at 225.7 a day, divided by 7. Chilmark, Oak Bluffs is set by the town selectmen. Nantucket is 20. Westport is 350 bushels a week of cohogs and 100 bushels of surf clams a day. Brewster was 10 bushels a day. Chatham was 20 bushels a day, and they're allowed to do hydraulic dredging. Orleans is 35 bushels a day. Eastham is 35 bushels a day. Wellfleet is 15. The average, not including Chilmark and Oak Bluffs, was 26.3 bushels a day. The state limit, which the boats currently are allowed to just go into the proposed areas that I'm gonna, off our town waters, are allowed to get 40 bushels a day in state waters, which would include, as far as I'm concerned, our town waters, because we don't have any regulations against it, and it seems to be that's how that goes.
I mean, most of these are offshore, not in like these little channels that we
Correct.
have, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is the area right here that Wellfleet's allowed to have whatever their 15 or 20 or whatever it was. They can't go up in here. They can't go up in here, but they're allowed to go in here and out to wherever the line for Wellfleet is. And then Orleans gets in Eastham, they share, the remaining portion of between these 2 points right here.
Jake, I have a question. is the stock out there stable, or, I just looked at the numbers and they seem large to me.
Yeah.
So are we depleting the inventory, or are
Well,
we okay?
I think we're okay at the moment. We're gonna talk about, like, kind of that, I'm kind of getting to that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So, no, it's okay. So this is in Chatham. There's two little areas, and they're basically between these marks, and then it's called A and B, and then this mark, and this is Monomoy. And you can tell down here for a scale, this is a 1.1 mile line. So it's, several square miles. And now, based on this image, which is our Shellfish interactive map, this is what our town waters are. And then mapped out on here is from basically here to here to here. And I've pulled these up and put them next to each other and tried to make this, extremely accurate as I can. But the one on the left to the west might be a little bit further down. So there they are all together. And there's a shrimp that I caught. But, so, I guess what I've saw, what the benefits of this is that it aerates the bottom, it gives the opportunity to fish less fishable spots by other means, which is an economic benefit for the fishermen. And with the ecological benefit, it can be a win-win done properly. Concerns are the size of the boats in the area, but also these other towns, they go out in the sound and in these large areas, and they have these sustainable, even at those higher limits for years, have had this for years and years, the ones that are active at doing it. Some of those towns, I'll admit, they don't really have an active fishery for whatever reason. Not that they're not allowed to, they just don't have the participants. But in Chatham and Orleans and Wellfleet and Eastham, there is, and they've been doing it for a very long time successfully. So my idea now would be to limit inside the embayments to that's the 5 basket limit to outboards only, because in shallow waters and in tight corners, you can pick up the engine if something goes wrong, and it's not a big deal. But, and also just the fact that those smaller engines would associate with a smaller boat as well. So it makes it easier for more people than if you have 2 or 3 large boats that are kind of taking up all the space. And then allow the larger boats to go outside the cut at a larger limit. Now the average was 25 between those towns. That's what I'd like to ask. Well, it was 26 point something. I'd like to ask for 25. It's less than Orleans. It's 5 more than Chatham. We have a large area up there. So I think that's about it for what I have to say.
Anybody from the committee want to comment? Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.
Yeah, good work.
So, yes,
Sorry,
in-
I have a question.
yes, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jason French, commercial climber. When these guys dredge, they're too close to the shoreline. I think they should get at least about 15 to 20 feet deep, because I jump out of a boat. I've fallen in those holes before. He has too. They're going way too close to the beach,
Who's they?
all the dredge boats.
And what area are you talking about?
Like the river, wherever they were like going too close to the beach for us. I mean, they should have a depth like 20 feet, 15 feet deep. So the guys that get out of the boats have a place to work.
So how do you define that? By water depth? Introduce yourself, please.
Tim Hamill, I'll speak on that too. Opening day for the North Bay Mills River area, I went to partake for the first time. And I went down to the end of the river to the flat to try to go fish that. It had been previously open. There was a lot of dredging action right on that closure line across, and that's where I ran into my issue. I was unable to access the other side of the whole flat because, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but when there's 2, 3, 4 boats, I mean, I don't know how many passes each boat does during a trip. but say it's 10, that's 40 passes in a small area, and now you've kind of scoured, it's changing the bottom, and that's another concern that I have, is how much, I grew up on a farm, you don't turn your soil over every single year fully to 2 feet, it'll kill it. So at what point, I mean, I don't know how long, has it been about 5 years, the dredging program? I don't,
This is well, we did the pilot program for 3 years, and then this year is not the pilot program, it's the first year of us officially, I guess, doing it.
4-ish?
We had discussed taking a break in the Mills
Yeah.
River.
Just because I mean, you can, I bold raked in there a little bit, and bottom's nice, no question, but it's pretty soft now, it's spun up pretty well, so it's like, cohogs might be doing good, but what about soft shell clam? What about the razors that you're catching in the knife? We need to get a knife stipulation. I mean, on the ad, it was an 18-inch knife in the Wellfleet ad, so if somebody can bring that in, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a big hole, that's a big problem. And when I have a chin, like, I'll speak on the river again, so when I couldn't fish the flat, I came up inside the river, went to go fish another flat on the edge of the channel, coming out, and large boat, I have chain rake on, and the channel is maybe 40 feet at the turn right there, and when you put a 36-foot boat, it's like, I left. I'm like, I'm not standing here, I'm an idiot, you know what I mean? So I had to leave because it was just too crazy, and then I'm like, I couldn't go out there because it was scout out, couldn't go in here because it's a war zone, so it was like, all right, I guess I'll go elsewhere. So I want to be sure, I don't think dredging is bad. It does have very good benefits. I just think it needs to be managed, moved, and moderated at some point. But like Jake said, it's new. There are no rules. We're all here to make rules, I guess, and there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, even like knives, and like you saw in his pictures, there's 2 different knife styles. Did you have solid knife or is that a slatted knife?
Well, I'm not sure which picture you're talking about.
There's just a couple, yeah, but you know what I'm saying, there's all sorts,
Yeah.
there's a lot that you can get into it, and like you said, it's gonna be an ongoing, evolving project, but, I mean, again, it was, the program, the pilot program was created to clean up the bottom, correct? That was the visionary statement
Right,
of the whole
yeah.
thing? So, I don't think that's a bad thing. There's a lot of bottom that can be used to clean up. I mean, Jason and we've Point Isabella, it's a great spot, a lot of sponge, lots of cohogs. I'll tell you, it sucks digging sponge. I mean, you guys know, So I just don't want to burn a spot out, you know what I mean? And to close it, close it to dredging. There's plenty of clams up on the edge still in the river. And to be honest, I never fished the river last year, but I drove through it a lot, and even up top there's less sponge, so now it's more inviting to actually hit those higher bankings on foot, you know what I mean? So there's definitely some good going on. It's just where's the scale gonna go, so but that's my 2 cents on that.
Well, good 2 cents. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, Tyler.
As far as like jumping out of the boat and falling into a hole or whatever, falling over, I don't think you can restrict the dredges to depth. I think you just gotta open and close areas in rotation, because if you say, well, you can't be shallower than 5 feet, then there's a moon tide, then there's whatever, and then what about the guys pumping steamers? I've fallen into plenty of soft spots.
But that's
for
totally
pumps.
different.
Yeah, probably a little bit
That is
deeper,
different.
right? But anyway, so I don't think you can do like a depth restriction. I think it just areas should rotate, maybe.
Yeah, when you use the steamer pump, it will sink the cohogs down into the depth, and then they get suffocated. If you use the cohog dredge, they would, at the worst, fall out of the dredge or roll away from the dredge, and they'd still survive.
There was spots where I was cohogging during low tide, and as soon as the tide came up, you guys would be right on top of the spot that I was on, because you guys can get there on high tide. So, and then I can't go back there because you guys clean it up.
Those shallow banks have been fished, but the majority of it is in the deep. The vast majority of it, yeah, But I guess, I think the goal would just maybe let you guys go in there a little bit before we go in there, if you want,
Or,
and then we
like
can go in
me and
there
Tim were
after.
talking, once a month, the game warden should pick a name out of a hat and go with you guys, so you guys know the law, know the rules.
Sure. I've taken Amy out several times this winter.
Yeah, when you don't cheat, but you don't cheat when she's on the boat.
How am I cheating?
You dump your shack on steamer holes. I've heard people complain.
I
Where
dump
you're
them in the
dumping
same,
your shack.
I dump some, yeah, just on the shoreline a little bit in one spot, the same spot that I put them there. Since we started, when we first started, I said, this is a rocky shoreline, and I'm gonna dump the sponge up here, which also has shell mixed in with it because the sponge grows on the shell, because the sponge dies when it's exposed to air. And the other spot that I've been dumping them, particularly in the Mills River, is on the mooring just next to Bird Island, and you've seen me there almost any time that you see me in the river, you see me on that mooring culling, because that is a mucky hole that isn't gonna ruin any other bottom. So there's two spots that I've been dumping it, and I haven't seen any, and everybody else has either gone out to North Bay, gone further into Prince Cove by the mooring field in Prince Cove, or they've used that exact mooring that I'm talking about next to Fox Island. And I haven't seen anybody but myself dump them on the shore over by the wall in Prince Cove. But that has been done already this is the 4th year, and it was a rocky shoreline, extremely rocky. If you look, just south of where that is, it's just nothing but rocks, So I just picked that spot because I wanted to kill the sponge.
So it sounds like that needs to be addressed as well. If you have, a shack to get rid of, then that should be addressed in the regulation. Is it your intention to draft something?
Not at this moment. This is so we have until the end of October to figure this stuff out.
Okay.
And it's a 47-person fishery, and there are 3 wild harvesters here today.
Or
Some more discussion.
Tyler
Oh, Tyler. I'm sorry, I forgot you were over there.
and Paul, I guess, too.
I do some.
5. There are 5.
One other thing about the dredging,
But
I'm
we're
not
not even
against
at
it.
a tenth of the fishery, is what I'm saying. So
But
this
that
stuff
doesn't
needs to
prohibit
be.
drafting something.
No, I'm just not at a point right now where I would like to draft anything. I think we need more vetting and more discussion and more involvement from the fishery
How do you propose to
kind of-
get that?
to guide it. Well, so I was thinking about it today, and I, obviously, as a municipal employee, we have opportunities to create surveys. And so I was thinking just a kind of broad survey to the fishery to kind of get their own individual views without it having to be in this forum.
That'd
And
be
then
great.
putting it together and kind of going through all of that and seeing where that takes us over the next few months
You
would
have
be good.
everybody's email? All the,
Oh, yeah.
good.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, one other thing too is just, I'm not against dredging, but protecting the eelgrass spots where everybody knows over the years, that's been a big downfall, which is major for like the scallops and all that stuff to grow naturally.
In the
Yeah.
sound, you mean?
The sound and anywhere it's grown.
We have, yeah.
You say it's been declined, I mean, I don't know exactly
Yeah,
where
yeah,
it is
yeah.
right now.
I know
per se,
where some-
but
well,
I
I've
know
actually-
they've been saying it's declining over the years.
I've actually
It's a
talked to
major
Amy about
habitat.
showing her like other eelgrass spots that I've found, like just diving and trap fishing in the sound. So those she wants to check out anyway, which are also near kind of in the waters that we're going to be. So they go check them out. And then we can just say we don't dredge in this area, It's,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to rip up eelgrass at all,
Exactly, that's the
Oh,
only
no,
thing I
yeah.
just wanna,
Absolutely
you know,
not,
I'm not
yeah.
against the dredging, but obviously we need to protect that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we wouldn't be doing it I don't want to see that either.
Okay.
Trust me.
We do have areas that were historically mapped for presence of eelgrass, and then we have areas that we actively monitor that do still have eelgrass present. And then there are areas that we don't get out to because they're a bit further offshore that Jake has found eelgrass that we will start monitoring. So,
Cool.
and we definitely will protect those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, so are we gonna have like actual, we're hoping to have actual regulations going into the next winter?
So I would like to have at least a management plan going into
Oh, yeah,
next
management
winter.
plan,
Yeah, I don't know about, I mean, I can have more than one public hearing for regulation changes a year. If we can get something together before, that could go to a hearing, say, like the end of September, beginning of October, and then go through that 30-day town council review after town manager approval, then it would be in place for November. But either way, I think if we don't wind up with actual drafted regulations at that moment in time, a management plan would be sufficient for this season.
That sounds good too. Or maybe like a 3-year management plan. I'm just thinking
For the rotation of areas.
the rotation of areas. Yeah, like where
Yeah,
are we going to be
schedule
able to
them
fish?
ahead of time,
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ahead of time.
And
Yeah.
my point in asking is this stuff isn't cheap, and to know that it's an investment that might pay off
Yeah.
is better than like
A shot in the
a
dark.
pilot investment.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah,
Okay.
I'm in the hole a little bit. I'd like to climb out.
Somebody throw them a rope, would they?
Yeah.
Any other questions about this? Comments? Good comments, good presentation.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the status of the Scudder Lane Town Landing repair. Nothing to report, right?
Nothing to report, other than it's getting really squishy in the sand over there. I had to winch Dave Ryan out. He got his truck stuck there the other day. Of note, Cape Conservation District took out a bunch of NRCS-minded people from the state of Washington to kind of promote stormwater runoff management projects in proximity to aquaculture. So they took a tour out into the harbor, learned about our municipal program that exists at Scudder. None of them knew what a quahog was, which I found interesting because they just call everything clams. But I think it was a good visit and a good way for the district to promote the work that they do to, kind of slow the amount of pollutants that get into our embayments immediately following rain events.
Great. Any matters not, Tyler, go ahead.
Just have one thing. There's been a new rule regulation that came down from DMF that stated when we do our trip reports and do our tagging, we now have to do a more specific number on the harvest area. And this is, I have 10,000 tags printed off, so now I have to do like an extra point, 0 or whatever it is. And it's a little bit annoying, definitely very annoying. And so in other fisheries, when there's a new regulation, it's not like, oftentimes it's not just like, boom, overnight, old regulation, new regulation. It's, hey, in a year this is going to happen, so get ready. Lobster, a lot of lobster regulations have gone through that. So anyway, I would just make a maybe recommendation if we could email the state or talk to somebody at the state and just say,
I think it was an advisement, right? It wasn't it on
No,
the...
it's a regulation now.
They
it's a rule
changed it?
now.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't...
So-
So
That's
if you scratch a couple in
Yeah.
North Bay and zip, it's
I get it, I mean, North Bay has...
I can speak to that a little bit if, just for clarification purposes. I'm assuming this came out of the risk assessment visits, the audits that the FDA comes down and does.
Probably.
And the problem is that in an area like Barnstable Harbor, where you may just put CCB 31, there is areas in open status year-round, there are conditionally approved areas, and there are prohibited areas. And so FDA is like, if it just says CCB 31, how do we know what part of CCB 31 it came from? So this is a checks and balance to have it, guaranteed that you're tagging from the most specific area.
CCB 31 is like the center of the harbor. There's CCB 34.
So, but then it would be CCB 31.0, you know what I mean? So it's,
CCB 31 is CCB 31.0. Like
yeah,
there's
so
no
you have to
CCB
put the point 0.
1.
Do we have to put .0?
I know what you're saying.
You gotta round down.
But there's no CCB 31.0.1.2.
Yeah, who's doing
It's
point one?
just CCB 31.0.
So, like, if you were,
Two, it has.
right, exactly. Like, so now they're in the mooring areas.
So for other areas.
So if you were shellfishing in a conditionally approved area that's in open status in another embayment where you have, and it's a problem in a lot of other towns as well, is that there's just too many areas that bleed into one another that are fished actively. And so they have to be held accountable for showing that they're tagged for the area that they actually came from. And so they're requiring that more specific number now.
What a pain. Yes, go ahead.
Another different topic thing. I was curious, is there any sort of end-of-the-year survey or anything for the commercial fishermen as to like where you fished in town, if areas were cleaned, or like an advisement? I know some towns, like, they'll ask like, where did you fish? Where did you rake out and clean? Like, where's clean bottom? So if they're looking to propagate or plant or anything like that, just knowing where there is good clean bottom that was fished out and that could be replenished, or is there anything that goes on like that?
I don't think, to my knowledge, that we've ever done a commercial survey. We did do some recreational harvest surveys back in the day, but that was only for a handful of years. But if you ever have an area that you think that you've worked to the point that it would be suitable for planting seed, reach out to the shellfish biologist or the shellfish technician and let them know. You know, we've given people maps before and said, mark them up with
That's like
where
a town
you would
form.
like us to plant, you know, where you think it's suitable bottom.
Yep. It's just sometimes it's one of the questions on the renewal permit of, where would you think, you know what I mean? And they don't tell you sometimes, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, if people know they clean bottom out, they know it's good to replace, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. So just go directly to them if you know of a spot that might be good.
Yeah, absolutely. They welcome that.
Great. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. And nobody wants to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, there you go.
I second that.
There you go. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.